Today I'm going to show you the easiest Band 9 vocabulary that you can learn. And do you know why it's the easiest vocabulary to learn? Because you already know it. Let me explain. Many words in English have different meanings. For example, take a word like back. Now you know that the word back means, well, this. You have your front and your back. However, did you know that there are different meanings for this word? We can also use back as a verb to mean to support. For example, we can say, it's important for the government to back local recycling policies. So when we use the word back in this way, it becomes a C2 level word, and you can see that here. Now, C2 refers to the Common European Framework, which is used by teachers to assess a student's level of English. C2 is the highest level and is typically used by proficient English speakers. And as you can see here, C2 is considered to be Band 9 vocabulary. So we've taken a simple word, back, and used it in a different way, a more advanced way. And we can take a lot of simple vocabulary and use it to convey a different meaning. However, in today's video, we're specifically looking at how we can take common words for describing the body and turning them into C2 level idioms. Let's get into it. Question. What is the body part that your toes are connected to? Yes, your feet. Now, have you ever heard the expression to get cold feet? If you get cold feet, it means that you suddenly become nervous about something that you had planned to do. For example, I want to apply for the IELTS test, but I'm getting cold feet. I was going to ask her on a date, but then I got cold feet. I was about to tell my boss what I thought of him, but then I got cold feet. So when you get cold feet, you become too nervous to do something that you had planned. And guess what? It's a C2 level idiom according to the Oxford Dictionary. Great stuff. What is the organ that pumps blood around your body? The heart. Now, what colour do you think of when you imagine a heart? Red, right? So what if I told you that somebody has a heart of gold? What would that mean? Now, if somebody has a heart of gold, it means that they are incredibly kind. For example, my teacher has a heart of gold. He's always staying late and helping me after class. Or he pretends to be a tough guy, but really he's got a heart of gold, meaning he acts as though he is tough, but deep down he's an incredibly kind person. Now, in IELTS, you often have to describe people, and this is a great expression that you can use if you want to emphasize how kind someone is. For example, a teacher, best friend, or a grandparent, perhaps. Number 3 also uses the word heart. Did you know we can say that we have our heart in our mouth? So when we say this, it means that we feel extremely nervous or anxious about something. Imagine that you're so nervous and your heart is beating so wildly that you can feel it in your mouth. For example, my heart was in my mouth when I got my IELTS results. Or, how was the speaking test? I was so nervous, my heart was in my mouth. Now, this is a very dramatic expression, so we would only really use it if we want to emphasize how incredibly nervous we are of something. We use it when we want to be dramatic. So this is an idiom that you could probably use in part 2 of the speaking test. In part 2, you often have to tell a story. For example, about a time when you received important news, or a time you went on a special holiday. So you can use this idiom to have your heart in your mouth when you want to really emphasize a time when you felt nervous, frightened, or anxious about something. Number 4 is the idiom to be up to your neck in something. Now, I'm going to give you 2 options for what it might mean. Does it mean A, incredibly busy, or B, incredibly lazy? Okay, if you are up to your neck in something, it means that you are incredibly busy. Imagine you are a teacher and you have so many essays that you need to evaluate that you are literally up to your neck in essays. You can't move because you are covered in essays to evaluate. So we often use this idiom when we are making an excuse. For example, we can say, "Sorry, I can't go out tonight. I'm up to my neck in homework." Or, "I'd love to help you, but I'm up to my neck at the moment." Which means that we're too busy to help someone. Now, some people also say up to your eyes. It's the same thing. So you can say, "I can't go out tonight. I'm up to my eyes in homework." Or, "I'd love to help you, but I'm up to my eyes at the moment." Now you can choose. You can say up to your eyes or up to your neck. Both are considered C2 level idioms. Now let me know, does a similar idiom exist in your language? You can leave a comment just below. If someone asks you a question and you can't remember or you don't know the answer, you can say, "I can't remember off the top of my head," or "I don't know off the top of my head." So off the top of my head means from my knowledge. For example, if a colleague in class asks you, "When was the deadline for the essay?" You can say, "I can't remember off the top of my head, but I can check for you." Or if someone asks you a general knowledge question like, "What is the capital city of Monaco?" You could say, "I don't know off the top of my head." Now, this can be a very useful idiom for IELTS, especially in part 3. In part 3, the examiner might ask you questions that you don't necessarily know the answer to. For example, you might be asked, "What are the main tourist attractions in your country?" And you can say, "I don't know for sure, but off the top of my head, I'd say Big Ben in London, Stonehenge maybe." So off the top of my head means from my knowledge, and it's very useful for IELTS. The next idiom is this, to have your hands tied. Now imagine if you said to me, "Eli, can you make me some coffee?" I'd say, "I can't, my hands are tied." Now this idiom means that there is something stopping you from doing something. People often say, "I'd like to help you, but my hands are tied," which means you want to help someone, but you can't. Maybe there's a rule or circumstance that stops you from helping them. Or a manager at your company might say, "I'd like to promote you, but my hands are tied, meaning the manager is not allowed to promote you for some reason. Imagine if someone said something really rude to you and you wanted to shout and swear at them. Now, how would you stop yourself from shouting at them? Well, maybe you would bite your tongue. Now, when you bite your tongue, you stop yourself from speaking, even though you want to say something. For example, you might bite your tongue to stop yourself from saying something that will offend someone, or to avoid an argument, or maybe to stop yourself from sharing a secret. We often say, I had to bite my tongue to stop myself from saying something. What is the biggest smile that you can make? Now imagine that something made you so happy that you smiled from ear to ear. So if you smile from ear to ear, it means that you are extremely pleased about something. For example, when I passed my IELTS test, I smiled from ear to ear. Or when my child was born, I smiled from ear to ear. I smiled from ear to ear when I saw the size of the present she had bought me. Again, this is the kind of high-level idiom that we can use in part 2 of the speaking test, when we're telling a story, especially when we want to emphasize that something made us incredibly happy. So you can say, I was so happy, I was smiling from ear to ear. The next one is my personal favorite. It's let something slip through your fingers. Now, if you let something slip through your fingers, then you miss a good opportunity. Imagine you've got something in your hand and then you let it slip through your fingers. You had it and now it's gone. There's a famous children's story about a tortoise and a hare in a race. You might know it. Now, obviously the hare is much faster than the tortoise. However, just before the end of the race, the hare decides to take a nap, so it goes to sleep. Now, the turtle, which is moving much slower, keeps moving and eventually passes the sleeping hare to win the race. So we can say, the hare let the race slip through its fingers. It should have won the race easily, but instead it missed the opportunity by falling asleep. The last idiom is sweet tooth. So if you have a sweet tooth, it means that you love eating sweet things. If you love eating chocolate, cake, sweets, candy, you've definitely got a sweet tooth. Now, you might be thinking, this doesn't sound like a Band 9 idiom. But if you go to the Oxford Learner's Dictionary and look up sweet tooth, there it is, C2. Now, this dictionary is a great resource for learning lots of idioms that we can use in our speaking. Just type in any word and scroll down till you see all of the idioms. Now, look out for those C2 level idioms to really boost your English level. One last thing. You're not going to get a Band 9 in your speaking or writing test just by using Band 9 vocabulary. Getting a Band 9 is about being able to express complex ideas fluently and using your words to express subtle meaning. If you are interested in improving your IELTS speaking or writing, then check out my IELTS courses at EnglishProTips.com, where you will be able to see model answers, learn vocabulary, and get a lot of useful tips and strategies for performing at your best in the IELTS test. Also, if you want to learn more advanced idioms and phrases like these, then let me know in the comments section below. As always, if you like this video, give it a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Best of luck with all of your studies, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Bye then.